Hi, my name is Adam Rangel, and I'm doing the roleplay discussion. So, I picked Miss Hale, but I'm also going to talk about Miss Wright, because Miss Wright, she's the main character in the story, and Miss Hale, she's the one who understands her story and understands why she did what she did. Now, Miss Wright, she was in a lonely house, but she had a husband, but always felt lonely because the husband would be outside doing farm work and taking care of what they do back in the day, just doing all the men work. And she's inside, but even when her husband does come inside, it's just a rough time for her. It's not too much going on. So her having the bird was like having a radio in the house. Now her having the bird would always make the little whistling sounds and do all the whistling, make it like music. But one day the husband came in and he strangled the bird. And after he strangled the bird, it made her have a lot of hate in her heart. So she ended up strangling him while he was sleeping and created a murder case. So now everyone started investigating, and two girls, which are the neighbors, they came over to come see what was going on. And while they came over, it was Miss Hale, who I'm doing the role play on. Now she understood the situation by puzzling clues together. She knew Miss Wright knew how to sew, but when she seen the sewing, it was all out of function and not done properly. And back in the day, sewing was like a priority, so you had to know how to sew. So when another woman seen another woman not finishing the sew properly, she knew her mental state was in a very bad place. So once she realized it was in a bad place, she started realizing how she could puzzle stuff together like that. And then she seen how the bird cage was all messed up. Now when she seen the bird cage was messed up, she ended up going into like certain areas trying to figure out what was wrong. And then she found the bird. So when the bird was found, she hid it and took it away from the police so the police wouldn't find it. Now, of course, a bird being killed would definitely be a huge clue in any investigation, especially when something like that happened, because now you're trying to puzzle everything together, and that's another death. But that's the whole reason why Miss Wright did what she did. I'm not going to say it's right, but being Miss Hale, I understand why she's looking out for her. So at the end of the day, I can't really judge no situation, but Miss Hale, she does understand and have a heart. So she might be doing wrong, hiding evidence, but she is trying to support another female and understand her pain. Miss Hale is one of the two women in the play who visits the Wright house, with the men investigating Mr. Wright's murder. At first, she doesn't know much about Miss Wright's life, but as she looks around the house, she begins to notice small things like a messy kitchen, unfinished sewing, and a broken bird cage. That helped her understand how lonely and sad Miss Wright must have been. Miss Hale plays a very important role. She helps uncover the emotional truth behind what happened. While the men ignore the little details, Miss Hale realizes there are actually big clues. Her character also shows the power of women supporting and understanding each other. Next, I'm going to talk about an important scene that's going to tell us about Miss Hale. A key moment in the play is when Miss Hale says, "If there's been years and years of nothing, then a bird to sing to, it would be awful still after the bird was still." This shows how much Miss Hale has come to understand Miss Wright's pain. At first, she feels guilty for not visiting her neighbor more often. Now she sees how isolated and emotionally hurt Miss Wright must have felt. She realizes that Miss Wright's life was full of silence and sadness, and that the bird might have been her only joy. When the bird was killed, Miss Wright may have felt completely alone. This moment changes how Miss Hale sees everything. Now we're going to talk about Miss Hale's appearance. Miss Hale is a farmer's wife. If this was a film, I can imagine her wearing simple and normal clothes like a long dress, an apron, or maybe even a bonnet. She's outside a lot. She does a lot of farm work, so I would say her hands are probably rough just from working on the farm. I visualize her as a woman who works very hard but doesn't get much attention, so she really doesn't care about her appearance. She probably might wear the same stuff repeatedly. It doesn't matter though. She probably just cleans in okay with that. You know, she's from the country. She doesn't want to do too much extra stuff. So I could probably see that as a scenario. So yeah, her costume will definitely be plain. And she's just a hard-working lady from the countryside. And finally, we're going to talk about Miss Hale's background. Miss Hale, she's married to a local farmer, and she's Miss Wright's neighbor. She probably spent most of her life working at home. And you know, when you work at home, you don't really do too much other than take care of the kids and cook and do all the other stuff. So she probably used to that life. And when she seen Miss Wright going through the struggle, that's when she got that connection, was able to puzzle stuff together. So she definitely raised children, and she was cooking and cleaning all the time, so she knows what it's like to live in the country. She never thought much about Miss Wright's life. She starts to feel guilty for not visiting. And you know, sometimes you start feeling guilty and not visiting when you know you could have helped out in the situation, because now it's too late to help out anything. Now the police are investigating a murder, so it's really too late. But the best thing she was able to do was help and take away evidence from the situation.